a level of immersion that we really focus on. You're not just playing a game, but you're living in this world, in this universe.
It's a giant open world for the player to do what they want.
You feel like you've had an impact in the world. You really feel like you're there.
There's certain, types of entertainment where you're just experiencing it. You're taking in what the creator wants you to see, and they draw that dotted line between this happens, go here, do this. The more that we can put you in the situation where you're going to decide. That's what makes video games the best form of entertainment that they are.
Bethesda just released some big news about Starfield. This time we get some new concept art, details on the gameplay, and even some news on the background of some of the locations. In this episode, we hear from design director Emil Pagliarillo, lead quest designer Will Shen, lead artist Istvan Pelli, and game director Todd Howard. There's a lot to unpack here, so let's get started.
We don't just make RPGs, we make simulations, and that leads to a lot of just crazy stuff that can happen and things you don't expect.
Yeah, we always have those big fights, what if combat breaks out right now, right? You have to handle that, right? Because it could. You can't control it. The only thing you control is that the game has to account for it somehow.
We embrace the chaos, let it play out, and usually it's pretty fun.
A lot of us have been doing this for a long time together, and it's nice with Starfield to go back to some things we didn't do, the backgrounds, the traits, the defining your character, all of those stats. And I think there's so many games now that do those things that people are ready for something that does a lot of the things that, older hardcore RPGs, some that we used to do, doing those again in a new way.
Emil started off by saying, we don't just make RPGs, we make simulations. This is very telling of what we can expect from this game. It is not going to be your typical BGS game. Todd followed up with how they are going to go back to the old way of making hardcore RPGs. He talked about character generation too, and from the sounds of it, we are going to get much more in-depth character creation setup.
We've always allowed the player to create really interesting, unique characters. This game, we've definitely severely leveled up. The tech is based on scanning of real-world models, similar to the photogrammetry we do in our landscapes. We're kind of applying the same thing to our people as well, because it's not just the appearance of your player and all that, but we want all the personal interactions of NPCs, other characters in the game, to be as impactful as possible. And for that, you have to believe these are real people. You're a real person interacting with real people.
Istvan touched on the fact that they use scanning techniques similar to how they create landscapes for the models in-game. The reason for that is to make the game as realistic as possible. This makes me very happy, and I can't wait to see how it translates in-game.
One of the big choices is which part of the game world am I going to engage in? We always make a bunch of different groups that represent some of the major factions in every game. And in this one, we've got the United Colonies that represents the future space republic, idealized. You also have the Freestar Collective, which is the space western fantasy, people that are out there on the frontier. We've got Ryujin Industries, which represents corporate life. I think it has one of the best starts of any of the factions we've done.
It's a megacorp, and you get hired, right? That you would do, right?
We'll play for our job. We'll see if you cut the mustard.
Right.
Will starts off by talking about the different factions in the game. The United Colonies represent the future of Space Republic. The Freestar Collective is more of a space cowboy type of group who are out on the frontier. And then there's Ryujin Industries, who represents the corporate lifestyle. From the way it sounds, there seems to be several different start options, meaning you can start out with any of the major factions.
Yeah, I love approaching it that way where, okay, what makes the world feel whole? What are the groups that would make it feel whole and believable? And then how does the player interact with them? What we're doing with the pirates, the Crimson Fleet as well. They're not just this foe, let the player join them. What does that mean?
The cool thing about Crimson Fleet, what if you're good person and you want to be a good player and you don't want to play as a bad guy, you can side with the pirates or you can report back your superiors and be like basically space cop type of thing. So let you be a good person and still play with the bad guys. I think that's really cool too.
Todd goes on to say that he loves what they are doing to make the world feel believable and how the player interacts within that world. He also touched on the Crimson Fleet, which is the main enemy in the game. He let us know that we can join them, which is a huge deal because that introduces a whole new dynamic to the game. If you want to be a bad guy, you can do it. Emil also weighed in on this by letting us know that we could even play the part of a spy or a cop, if you will. We could pretend to join them and simply turn them in at a later point. The biggest takeaway here is that we are truly being given the freedom to choose our own path, and that will make this game so much more interesting, and it adds a whole new replayability to the game.
It seems like no matter what story we write, the one the players tell themselves is the one that they think about and love the most, and the companions.
Hello, Captain. How may I be of assistance?
So something we really, leaned into on this game, how those other characters felt about you.
That's probably my favorite part. Like when you're exploring and then your companion makes some comment off the cuff about something that you're checking out or something that just happened, it just feels so perfect for immersion. It's so believable. You think it's a real person.
So, we knew we wanted to do some kind of persuasion minigame thing.
Yeah, we sat down and it was funny. We didn't start with, let's do an evolution of, let's look back at the old Oblivion system, but there are a couple of beats there. You have to think about, what's my risk here, right? Which one do I want to choose? We didn't want it to be a system where there was definitely the right thing to say.
It feels like you're having a conversation where you're actually trying to persuade somebody of something. So it's actually, I think it's, as far as new systems in dialogue, I think it's definitely one of the most successful ones that we've had.
Todd started to touch on companions. Yes, you heard me right. Companions are confirmed, and they will react to things that we do in the game. I know Fallout 4 already kind of did this, but from the way it sounds, in Starfield, they will respond in a more dynamic way. Emil touched on the persuasion dialogue by describing it as a minigame. This to me sounds awesome. It means we don't have the obvious dialogue choice that is color-coded to let us know how hard it is. Will added to this by hearkening back to Oblivion and how you really had to think about your choices and what you were going to say. For me, this is very exciting to see Bethesda getting back to their roots, and looking all the way back to Oblivion for that is huge. In my view, Oblivion had some of the best writing that Bethesda has ever done. My hope is that Starfield will eclipse Oblivion on that scale. Todd saying that this is the most successful dialogue feature they have ever had is a bold statement, and I hope it is.
I think when we knew we were making a game about space, you ask yourself certain questions, and that question is, what is out there? And so, as a game, we have romance, adventure, mystery, but I think with Starfield, there's this other layer of, the cosmos and the universe and what is out there.
At the end of it, we want the players to have told their own journey, but then look back at it and we're asking the big questions. Why are we all here? Where is it leading? And what's next for humanity?
Emil started off by saying there will be romance, adventure, and mystery in the game. He also added that there will be wonder as we will ask what is out there. Todd added in that he wants us to be asking, why are we here? And where is it all leading? And what is next for humanity? Those are questions I think we have all asked at one point or another, whether we said it out loud or just thought it in our own mind. These are questions we all want answers to. It is comforting to know that we will be experiencing this in the game. I'm going to let you in on my own personal life for a second here. I have always wanted to go into space, not just to visit, but to live, to travel to other worlds. And while I may never get to do any of that, I think Starfield will be the next best thing. I have played many space games, and none of them have done for me what I believe Starfield will do. Let's take that journey together. We got a lot of information out of this episode, and I hope you all enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments below of what your thoughts were about this news. Do you have a faction you want to start off with first? Sound off in the comments below. If you enjoyed this episode, give a like, subscribe if you still haven't, and share this with your friends. It really helps the channel, and I appreciate you all. As always, I'm just glad you stopped by, and I'll see you in the next one.